The people who cause the most damage in your life are rarely your enemies. They are often the people who know exactly how to get a reaction out of you. The co-worker who turns every meeting into a battlefield. The partner who makes you feel like you're walking on eggshells at home. The friend who somehow always knows which button to push. Silence will not stop them. Logic will not stop them. Kindness, even at its most sincere, will not stop them. The only thing that truly stops them is becoming completely boring to them. Most people go their entire lives and never figure that out. We have been sold a very comfortable lie. We are told that if we explain ourselves clearly enough, if we remain patient long enough, or if we appeal to a person's decency, eventually they will understand. Eventually they will change. But there is a specific type of person for whom your clarity is merely ammunition. Your patience is simply a weakness to exploit. Your decency is nothing more than entertainment. Psychologists call them high-conflict personalities, manipulators, emotional predators. These individuals do not want resolution. They want engagement. They want your energy. They want your frustration. They want your tears and your anger. In America, where toxic workplace behavior affects millions of people every year, these individuals are everywhere, in boardrooms, in break rooms, at family dinners, and inside text messages that keep you awake at night. Here is the unsettling truth about emotional manipulation: it is never about winning an argument. It is about controlling the emotional state of another person. The moment you react, they win. The moment you defend yourself, they win. The moment you try to explain, they win again. Maybe you've met someone like this. Every conversation somehow turns into an argument. Every explanation creates another accusation. Every attempt at peace becomes another opportunity for conflict. No matter what you say, you leave the interaction emotionally exhausted. You check your phone and see their message, and your heart starts racing. You walk into a meeting and they're there, and you already feel defensive before anything has even happened. You try to have a normal conversation with your partner, and within 5 minutes, you're defending yourself against an accusation you don't even understand. What if the answer was not to fight back harder, but to become completely uninteresting? There is a method studied in behavioral psychology that goes by an unusual name, the Gray Rock Method. It was first documented by a writer named Schuyler in 2012 as a way to protect oneself from sociopathic behavior. The concept, however, is rooted in something far older, a fundamental truth about the nature of predators. A predator, whether in the wild or in human relationships, pursues what moves, what reacts, what bleeds. A gray rock does none of those things. It just sits there. It is neutral. It is dull. It offers absolutely nothing. The method is deceptively simple. When dealing with a toxic or high-conflict person, you become as uninteresting as possible. You provide short, flat, emotionless responses. You share nothing personal. You reveal no opinions. You offer no emotional hooks, no frustration, no joy, no sadness, nothing they can use to pull you deeper into their orbit. Understand the psychology that makes this work. Manipulative personalities operate on what researchers call intermittent reinforcement, the same psychological mechanism behind gambling addiction. They push your buttons in unpredictable patterns. Sometimes they are charming, sometimes they are cruel. Sometimes they give you hope, then take it away. Sometimes they love you, then disappear. That unpredictability is the trap. Your nervous system becomes wired to keep engaging, always hoping for the good version of them to return. It's like being at a casino where the jackpot never comes, but you keep playing because maybe this time it will. But what makes this cycle so dangerous is not what it does to them. It is what it slowly does to you. Over months, over years, you start doubting yourself. You start thinking you're the problem. You start apologizing for things that were never your fault. Your confidence erodes. Your boundaries crumble. Your sense of reality becomes distorted. The Gray Rock Method breaks that loop entirely. When you stop reacting, you cut off their supply. Without that supply, they lose interest. They don't lose interest because you defeated them in a debate. They lose interest because you have become, to them, genuinely boring. And that is a far more powerful position than winning a fight. The key insight is this: toxic people do not crave conflict for the sake of conflict. They crave stimulation. They want to feel powerful by making you feel something. Remove the feeling, and you remove their power. It is remarkable how this modern psychological strategy echoes the teachings of Stoic philosophy from over 2,000 years ago. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men who ever lived, governed an empire and spent his private hours writing reminders to himself about what was, and was not, worth his attention. He wrote, not for the public, but for his own discipline, that people who disturb us can only do so if we grant them permission. He realized that an obstacle only becomes a true obstacle when we struggle against it in the wrong way. While Marcus ruled Rome, he was surrounded by courtiers with agendas, by generals seeking power, and by people who wanted to destabilize him for personal gain. Yet he remained unshakable. Not because he was immune to attack, but because he controlled what he allowed into his inner world. The Stoics drew a clear, uncompromising line between what belongs to us and what does not. Your opinions, your judgments, your choices, these are yours. Everything else, including another person's behavior, their provocations, and their petty cruelties, is entirely outside your control. In a culture that constantly encourages people to react, defend, and retaliate, the Stoic approach feels almost unnatural. But it is one of the most powerful forms of resistance. Because you are not fighting them. You are protecting yourself. Epictetus, who was born a slave and rose to become one of the greatest philosophical minds in history, understood this from lived experience. He taught that no one can truly harm you without your participation. Pain imposed from the outside can be endured. But suffering, real, internal suffering, requires your mental consent. This is not passivity. This is not weakness. This is the highest form of strategic discipline. Think about it. When someone insults you, do they actually harm you? No. The insult is only words. Your reaction is what gives those words power. Seneca, writing to a friend who was suffering under the weight of a vicious critic, offered words that carry a startling modern precision. He suggested that the best response to a person trying to provoke you is to deny them exactly what they want. Not with words. With stillness. The Grey Rock method is, at its core, a Stoic practice in modern clothing. It is the disciplined withdrawal of your inner world from someone who does not deserve access to it. It is the recognition that your emotional reaction is a finite resource, and like any resource, it must be protected and spent with wisdom. Every time you react to a toxic person, you spend energy that could have gone toward your family, your work, your health, or your future. Why give that energy away so freely? Second, remove the personal. Toxic people mine your life for emotional material. They store it and use it later, against you, in front of others, or simply to create a false sense of intimacy. When speaking to someone like this, become an unremarkable professional. Be factual. Be surface level. Be impossible to excavate. Share nothing about your relationships, your fears, your ambitions, or your struggles. Be like a stone by the side of the road. Present. Harmless. Completely unrevealing. If they ask about your weekend, say, it was fine. If they ask about your relationship, say, it's good. If they ask about your problems, say, I'm handling it. No details. No emotions. No hooks. Third, manage your internal state, not just your external behavior. This is the part most people miss. You can speak in flat tones and still be internally furious, and they will sense it. The Grey Rock method only works when it is matched by genuine inner calm. This requires practice. Focus on your breathing. Take deliberate pauses before responding. Mentally rehearse your composure before difficult interactions. The Stoics called this prosoche, continuous self-attention. It means checking your inner state the way a pilot checks instruments before a flight. Before you walk into a difficult conversation, take inventory. Not of what you are going to say, but of the state you are in. Are you angry? Are you anxious? Are you defensive? Because true composure is not a performance. It is a practice. There is a quiet revolution that happens inside a person the first time they choose not to react. It does not happen because they had nothing to say. It happens because they realize a profound truth. A certain kind of person will never hear you. They are not listening for understanding. They are listening for ammunition. And the moment you truly understand that, something fundamental shifts. You stop feeling guilty. You stop feeling responsible. You stop feeling like you need to fix them. You stop trying to win conversations that were never designed to be won. You stop explaining yourself to people who have already decided exactly what you are. You stop feeding a dynamic that only grows stronger the more you resist it with words and emotion. You become still. Not cold. Not broken. Just still. Marcus Aurelius spent decades as the most powerful man in the Roman Empire. He was surrounded by people with agendas, manipulation, and constant attempts to influence him. And yet, he reminded himself again and again that the quality of your inner life is determined by the quality of your attention. What you let in, what you respond to, what you decide is worthy of your energy. He did not waste his attention on every provocation. He did not surrender his peace to every difficult person. And that is how he ruled for 2 decades without surrendering his peace. The gray rock method is not a cheap trick. It is not a manipulation tactic. It is a declaration, quiet, unhurried, and unshakable, that some things are simply not worth your inner world. And that is, in the deepest sense, what the Stoics meant when they spoke of freedom. Because the moment someone can no longer control your emotions, they lose the only power they ever had over you.